So today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 67 of the series, and if you haven't seen the last Wixo episode, go watch it before watching this one because there's going to be some major spoilers in this one. But with that spoiler warning out of the way now, we have just started World War IV in the last episode, and in today's episode we are going to be seeing exactly how it plays out. Also, welcome to Daily Upload Week. This entire week we'll have an upload every single day all the way up to Saturday. If you didn't know that, make sure to check out the community tab. I post a lot of things over there about schedules or like video releases or just anything in general. So once again, I recommend you guys keep up with that. But if you guys do enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated as we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers by the end of this summer. Hello to everyone in the premiere chat. I know that this Wixo video is being premiered. And let's go ahead and jump straight into World War IV. So previously, we saw the communists jump the brown team. In a series of events which unfolded in a matter of hours, the communist nations of Europe all declared war upon the brown team and started their invasions. On the first day, the brown team lost 3 of its major cities, and that was due to the very little amount of time that they had to prepare. But the brown team isn't just a pushover nation, it's one of the strongest nations in the world. At this point, the brown team is tied with India for the title of the strongest country in the world. Militarization has been ongoing in Europe for a long time. Ever since troops were put on the borders of these countries, every single nation that is communist or fascist has been rapidly building up their military, maybe not necessarily mobilizing it, but definitely building it up, meaning that this conflict isn't going to be just a sweep. The brown team is not going to go down without a serious fight. Now with that being said, we also have to address the fact that there was going to be a consequence for the square team declaring war on the brown team, and that consequence was the Parallelagram Alliance sending an ultimatum over to Rome. That ultimatum said that if you don't leave this war, we are going to join on the side of the Dutch and we are going to fight the communists. The members of the square team decided to decline the ultimatum, which officially started World War IV between the European communist and the fascist. So jumping straight into the fighting, let's get into it. The first of the fighting took place in France with the southern French invading into northern France. They're able to capture the capital of North France and they continue their campaign up north, aiming to capture the remaining major city that is in this country. Meanwhile, elsewhere we have the brown team finally fully mobilizing its offensive forces. Remember, they have defensive forces all along these borders. Obviously, they're being pushed back by the overwhelming number of troops from the square team, but the brown team isn't just going to play defense here. They're once again one of the strongest nations, tied for the strongest nation. The brown team will decide that their weakest opponents lie over here in the east, Poland and the Farmers Union. It is here that we see the brown team's military quickly push back against Poland's forces, recapturing a major city and almost completely pushing the Polish military out of their country. Additionally, the brown team has success in pushing back against the Farmers Union, but where they continue to struggle is over here in the French region, as the purple team is focusing a majority of its military forces in this area. There are a ton of major cities right here, and if the purple team can reach up to the English Channel, they have a pretty good chance of isolating this part of the brown team and taking out North France, which would probably squeeze the brown team and force them to play defense instead of trying to do any kind of offense. Norway's strategy will be pretty simple. They are going to be focusing in on the coastal areas of the brown team. They face heavy resistance over here though. This is of course the capital area of the Dutch team. The military here will not allow for the Norwegians to advance, meaning that Norway will now focus on something else, this time the coast over here where present day Poland is. But don't forget, the African fascists are also in this war. Taking a quick little look at the naval map of this war, it's going to be kind of messy, I'm not going to lie, but a lot of the fighting will be taking place over here in the Mediterranean Sea between the Roman Navy and the African navies. But heading now on over to the Iberian Peninsula, there are a lot of different countries here, including West Africa, the Dark Cyan team, Iberia, and southern France / Spain technically. But the West Africans will be quickly invading into Iberia, and unfortunately for Iberia, they don't really stand much of a chance. We also see the Dark Cyan team invade into Iberia as well as southern France. They manage to take a major city, and then the Dark Cyan team also invades into this area of Rome, but are stopped by Roman forces outside of this major city. Up north, the brown team is successful in pushing back against the Norwegians all the way over to their border, alleviating a lot of these cities up here. Additionally, the Dutch team will start pushing into Poland, capturing this major city and instantly threatening their capital. At this point, we also see the Dutch do a brief little campaign into this region of the Roman area, taking one major city, and then focusing in on pushing back the special forces of Rome over here. Now, the Parallelagram Alliance kind of wants to integrate the Star Economical Alliance into more of a military resourcefulness alliance, meaning that they want to just largely take resources from these star countries in order to fuel their war effort. Now, of course, taking a quick little peek at the ideology map, you'll see that some of these Star Alliance members are fascists, some of them are dictators. So the chances are that they've pretty much all been installed by these much larger countries on the outside, meaning that those leaders will be loyal to the cause and they will export their resources. But there's just one area where that isn't the case, and it's actually over here in Mesopotamia. You remember this dark purple country here that recently turned fascist and then joined the Star Economical Alliance? This is a core province of the old empire, and the people here are not so happy about being ruled by a fascist government anymore. Knowing that they are now fueling a cause that goes against the values of their once great Mesopotamian empire, the government of this country will be forced to refuse aid to the Parallelagram Alliance. The gold team isn't going to take that too lightly. A few days after the purple team's open defiance, the gold team will land troops in the dark purple country, quickly starting its invasion. The military force of this country is not enough against the gold team, who is a top 10 military power in the world. Very quickly will this nation fall, and the gold team has now invaded and conquered a country which wasn't even fighting back against it. But now the gold team will pull the resources from this area and start to fight back against the Europeans. Speaking of, the Poles are going to lose their capital city. That's a big deal. Now, the square team knew that the brown team wasn't going to go down without a fight. They knew that there was a chance that the Parallelogram Alliance would retaliate against this invasion. But what they didn't think would happen is that Poland would be folding as quickly as it is. Their forces that were invading into the brown team are all gone. They all retreated. And now the brown team is very rapidly invading into Poland, something they seem to be very good at. Another major city is captured, and at this point, it's like, what are we doing, Poland? This little mishap is causing Norway's plans to kind of go south, as their invasion forces are all kicked out and the Dutch start to invade into southern Norway, at which point Rome is scratching its head. Why are my allies so useless? Not you, Farmers Union. You're cool. So Rome's response to their allies starting to lose is to, well, take more of the brown team, of course. This is war, after all. They move north and capture this major city, and it's very clear that they are planning to just move north to this city, to that city, and of course, eventually capture the capital of the Dutch. The Dutch know that this isn't really what they want, and they also know that they're fighting a very complicated war. This is going to be a very hard war to fight. There are like 4 different fronts for them. So what does the brown team do? Well, recently we had a little bit of an ideological shift happen over here in the HRE, and that was to the benefit of the brown team. Now, of course, these guys are unaligned. They're not in any major alliance. They are just only in their own alliance, which is the Holy Russian Empire. But now, who is the elector of the HRE? Who is the one that makes all of the decisions on foreign policy? Well, it is none other than the tiny little purple country here. They are chosen as elector. And when the brown team calls on their fascist friends in the east to join the war, the HRE will have a vote. Remember, all of the diamond members are in the HRE, and recently the pink team joined it. But the vote goes as this. These 3 fascist countries will vote in favor, as well as the pink team, and the 2 communist and the democratic nation will vote against. That is a 4-3 majority for the HRE, meaning that they are being forced to join this war. This is going to cause severe controversy from within the HRE, because this is supposed to be more of a defensive alliance. Why are we going on offense? That's not really our function. The fascists simply don't care. The power has gotten to their head, and they now are dictating the fate of the alliance. They will start invading into the east of Poland, as well as the Farmers Union, quickly capturing a major border city. But at this very point, the HRE collapses. Both communist nations, which are these 2 right here, decide that they are done. They leave the HRE, and they are very quickly followed suit by this democratic nation down here. But the fascists aren't really too keen on that happening, and they're going to start bombing the major cities of these 2 communist nations. Now, I want you guys to notice that the population density between the HRE members is not very even. The fascist nations have a lot more people in them than the communist nations, as you can see by the number of major cities. So the fascists start bombing these major cities in the communist, which is an act of war, and you know, these guys just left the HRE. So the communists are pulled right into World War IV. And officially, they will join the square team. So the square team gains 2 new members where former Russia used to be, while the HRE kind of ceases to exist. And instead, we see these nations join the Parallelagram Alliance, which at this point has transformed from a Northern African alliance into a global fascist order, officially marked by the joining of the Dutch Empire into the Parallelogram Alliance. It is now square versus parallelogram. I really should have chosen a better shape. But with the Russians now rapidly invading into Poland, the brown team will start to focus its resources on taking out this communist nation. They move from major city to major city, and then the Russians start doing the same thing, which is entirely embarrassing considering that the Russians are, not really strong. I mean, they're like a mid-tier power, maybe like an average power in terms of military, but Poland is essentially collapsed. The brown team will shoot right across and meet up with their Russian counterparts, and they will move throughout Poland, taking all of the major cities until officially we have the capitulation of Poland, a huge fascist victory very early into this war. Now, while Poland is knocked out, and that sucks for the communists, it does allow Norway to refocus itself on its campaign. They no longer have to worry about a weaker front line over here because at this point, it's all solidified and united. But that in a way makes it easier. You don't have to worry about your ally failing. So Norway will restart their invasion into the brown team, this time a lot more successful than previous attempts. But where they really struggle is over here towards the capital area. They are unable to move anywhere past this line. They're able to take this major city and get on the outskirts of this one, but there is absolutely no westward movement. Over here in the pink team, we have them invading into their former Russian ally. This actually just happened not too long ago, but we're doing it again. And this military campaign is largely successful thanks to the bombing run done by the fascist nations, which honestly, these Russian nations might have had some help from someone else doing those bombing runs. I don't know who could have helped them out. Why do they have two capitals? I don't know how long that's been there, but that's not right. But the gold team might have sent some supplies up into the Russians maybe a while ago, maybe when they flipped to fascism, just in case. And obviously that's helped them out greatly because these two nations are very crippled right now. Back down in Iberia, we have the capturing of two more Iberian major cities, and the West Africans will shoot up, separating the Iberian country into two parts. And unfortunately, the military of Iberia will be simply outclassed by that of West Africa's as they try to hold out in their capital city, all while the rest of their countries very quickly ran through. We see the Dark Side team advance its forces further north into southern France, taking two more major cities, while also moving into Rome and taking yet another major city. Up north, we have northern French forces finally pushing back against the southern communists. Since their nation is kind of collapsing at this point, northern France recaptures their capital city and pushes the southern French all the way out of their country. From here, the northern French will move into the southern French nation, capturing two cities and the capital city, which will be the final nail in the coffin for South France as they capitulate over to their northern opposites. We also see Iberia completely fall over to West Africa as their capital city is also taken. And just like that, the communist presence in Iberia, or more so the square team presence in Iberia, is completely gone. The fascists have overrun the peninsula, and this is not going to plan for the Romans. They were kind of the mastermind behind the plan to jump the brown team, but they didn't think that they would lose as much land, as many allies as they have, this quickly. It's at this point though, a beacon of hope shines from the sky, as India will present itself to the world stage, sending an ultimatum to the gold team. India will no longer stand by idle. Enough is enough. Throughout the past couple of episodes, we've seen the genocide in Africa. We've seen how the brown religion has almost completely been eradicated from the continent, other than its stronghold down here in Tanzania. This is the religion of India. While they may have previously failed to protect it, enough is enough. They will not allow for the complete disappearance of their history. The ultimatum sent to the gold team is as simple as this: halt all forces, stop your genocide, and form a new government. So what does the gold team do when they get this nice little ultimatum in the mail? Or probably, I don't actually know, how do countries send ultimatums in real life? I guess they get it in the mail, whatever. They take a look at it and like, huh, yeah, that's stupid. But there is something about this that it just doesn't set right with the leader of the gold team. It sends him into a fit of rage. He becomes furious. The gold team will now start to rapidly accelerate its genocide to unprecedented levels. They completely purge all religion within their purple counterpart, and India's response to that is a declaration of war. India joins World War IV, not on the side of the communist nations, but on the side of freedom, on the side of humanity. A lot of nations around the world are shocked by this. India is obviously a very neutral country. The only thing they've really ever done was join the coalition against the green team. That was for similar purposes. There was a genocide happening in the green team, and obviously they were doing a lot of rapid expansion, the same thing that the gold team is doing. But India, being one of the strongest nations in the world, being tied for first place in military, first place in economy, they believe that they can truly win this war and bring about change to Africa. They will begin to put troops on ships as they prepare to disembark for Africa, more specifically the Horn of Africa, where the gold team awaits them. Now at this point, the gold team isn't actively participating in the war in Europe. They're more so maybe sending volunteers, but they still have their military on alert, of course, because they're very aware that World War IV may not just be in Europe soon. There's a very good chance that it could spread elsewhere. Back in Europe, we have Brown Team forces completely securing the remainder of Poland, along with help from the Russians. We see the Farmers Union push back against the Blue Russians over here, but they do continue to lose ground against the Brown Team. All the while, the Brown Team continues to lose ground against the Purple Team as yet another major city falls to Rome's forces. But that little excursion into the Brown Team may be very short-lived, as forces from Iberia and Africa begin to seep deeper into Purple Team territory, now taking yet more major cities. We also see the West African Navy successfully capture these 3 isles over here from the Roman country, who to this point has had a complete naval failure in the Mediterranean. Going up north to Norway. Remember, these guys are not a communist nation, they are more of a socialist nation, a social democracy, if you will. The reaction of the people to this war is very mixed. A lot of people understand the threat of fascism and support a united front to bring an end to it, but also a lot of people aren't too happy about going to war, and going to war of this scale at that. So the leader of Norway comes on the national television and he pours his heart out, giving all of the reasons as to why Norway should be fully invested into this war. A sense of strong nationalism takes Norway by storm as people begin to heavily enlist into the Norwegian military. This campaign, which might have been a propaganda campaign at that, will ignite the Norwegian military to go deeper into Brown Team territory, now taking even more major cities from this country, and finally pushing them past the Western Wall, which they have failed to pass thus far. They now approach this major city, do an encirclement of it, and begin to siege it, all while the outside Norwegian forces continue their march westward. The city is eventually finally captured, but a swarm of Brown Team troops from the south forces Norway to reorganize their military into a defensive stance, as this sweeping campaign once again threatens Norway's excursion into the Brown Team. We also see Brown Team troops retake these 2 major cities from Rome, as Roman forces are now being forced to reorganize southward in order to deal with the Iberians and the West Africans. Over in Russia, we see this country invade into the Purple Country. I don't believe this is the first time that they have done this, but they're able to quickly take the capital city of this country. It's a very weak country, and they eventually surrender, meaning that the communist Russians may be down, but they certainly are not out, as they take yet another major city, this time from the Blue Team. Even over in the Farmers Union, we have them invading into what was formerly Poland, taking major cities and reclaiming lost Polish land from both the Brown Team and the Russians. And with this, a strong sense of pride sweeps across the Square Team as hope is refilled, and the war against the fascists looks like it honestly could be turning around. Having India join the war and to take care of the gold team in Africa is a huge sigh of relief for the European communists. That's one less nation to deal with, a very strong nation at that. But then the Brown Team pulls the trigger. They will send out a call to arms to every single fascist nation in the world. Each individual brown circle you see on this map will receive a call to arms from the Brown Team. It states this: join us in our fight against the communists, and let us rule the world under a new order following their defeat. Sounds pretty fun, right? Yeah, a lot of these fascist countries agree. In South America, we have the Circle Alliance joining the war on the side of the Parallelagram Alliance. They will begin to send troops and supplies into both Africa and Europe in the name of defeating the European communists. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to be changing their shape over to the parallelogram so it's easier to tell what the sides are at this point. But remember, South America isn't the only other continent with fascist nations within it. We also see this nation down here, who is a fascist nation, join up with the Parallelagram Alliance, responding to that call to arms by the Dutch team. But then most notably, we have Red Australia joining the Parallelagram Alliance. The fascist front has now been completely united. The most extreme ideology in the world has never seen support as united as this. And with this occurrence, the Square Team now rightfully fears for its life. The Iberians will continue their march into the Purple Team, now getting into more of their core territory area, and even starting to threaten their capital city to an extent. We see the Pink Team quickly reach over and snag the capital of this country over here in Russia, and the Brown Team pushes back against the Norwegians, taking 2 major cities. Now, while it may seem that the world is coming crashing down for the communist nations and the Square Team, there is still that beacon of hope in India. Their preparations and planning for an amphibious invasion of the Gold Team have been long completed. This is something they have had planned for a very long time. But now we finally see that invasion force being put to use. their navy begins to reach across the Indian Ocean, heading straight towards the gold team. They will eventually reach the outskirts of the gold team's naval area. They will fight up against the gold team's navy, and they will be successful in defeating it. India will then land troops on this island and take it, and then move their navy even closer to the tip of the gold team. Now, while this is great and all for the Europeans, the gold team is distracted. It's really only the gold team that is distracted. All of the other fascist nations in the world are still supporting and helping out Europe. They're not too focused on defending the gold team because the gold team, they might be able to hold their own against India. Over here in the Alpine region, we have Brown Team Special Forces having a successful military campaign into the region. These are elite forces who are trained to take any major settlements or supply routes or anything that is in this very mountainous area. They are successful in doing so, and they even managed to capture, like I said, a major settlement. We then see a larger Brown Team military force over here in their southeastern quadrant come down and push back all invading forces from the Purple Team and the Farmers Union. Over back here in France, we have northern France officially annexing southern France, erasing it from existence and ending this ceasefire/stalemate that was signed between the two previously. Remember, there really wasn't an end to the war. They just kind of agreed to stop fighting. So France is technically back, I guess, or more so I should say back under one flag. But 6 months after the beginning, we have an event that will change the world. An event that will shift the balance of power between the fascists and the communists. One event that could even spell defeat for one side on the war. And now comes the restoration of greatness, modeled after an era of dominance from long ago, striving to reclaim and elaborate the past. The Lime Team rebels from India. Once the strongest and greatest nation in the world, the Lime Team reappears on the map decades after its collapse previously. Funded from foreign operatives and propped up with a severe sense of nationality in India, a nation which has cracked down on such nationality in fear of radicalization, as history repeats itself and the past has come back to the present. The Lime Team rebels very quickly reclaim the area of Pakistan which they once ruled, connecting all enclaves together and creating one united front. Indian invasion forces, which were sent to invade the gold team, quickly revert course in order to save the motherland. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of What If Civilization Started Over, and I will see you all in the next episode. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes CTG on YT, Geeksco, Euroball, Serminator, Augusto, King Cheese, A Norwegian, RS, Gail Martinez, Australian Geo Guy, America and Canada and UK, Zaylance, Lazo Does Nothing, Freezioi, Laser Taze, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Pablo Sigma Cat, Death Strider X, Hammer Toad 45, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.